Hello and welcome to another episode. Big weekend brought to you by Paddy Power here on the Football 365 show. I hope you're all doing good. This is the second one we've done. We did one last week. It went pretty well, if I don't mind saying so myself. You guys got involved a lot, and that's really, really helpful. You can do that throughout the show. We'll be streaming for around 30 or 40 minutes, maybe longer, maybe shorter, but around that sort of ballpark. You can comment wherever you're watching, Facebook, YouTube, or on Twitter. Feel free to get involved. Any questions you've got. No Winty this week. She's off doing more important stuff than a frivolous internet streaming show. So it's just me. I'm Mark Smith, and I'm here this week with Matt Stead. Matt Stead's a good egg. You know him. I know him. We all know him. Let's get to know him even more here on Big Weekend, brought to you by Paddy Power. Steady, how you doing?
Hello, Mark. I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, I'm all right. There's a bit of a delay, so this is going to either be really funny or absolutely appalling.
Of course there is.
You know, one of the two. No, what can you do? So my advice is, let's just talk, stop, and not talk over each other too much. That will go out the window within the first 10 seconds.
Yeah, and hopefully there'll be at least a minute delay between everyone talking.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's lots to talk about. It's last week, Steady, we talked. Me and Winty talked a lot about the sort of death of the ESL, really, the European Super League. It feels as though that has seems to have been forgotten already. Do you feel as though we've got short memories and we're just not going to learn anything from that whole sorry affair?
It does feel a little bit like that, doesn't it? Yeah, obviously we've still got the issue with the Champions League reforms that UEFA have managed to push through and stuff like that. And I think it was earlier today that executives from 5 of the clubs who joined the Super League, they've left their roles in terms of like Premier League executive roles. So whether there's going to be anything more to do with that, whether obviously we yet to see what the punishments are going to be. I don't think there'll be any points deductions. They might hit them in terms of fines maybe, but yeah, the fear is that we did the difficult work in terms of bringing the Super League down after 48 hours of it kind of coming to pass, and then they're going to kind of try and push through anything else they can now, really.
Yeah, I'm hoping it's a watershed moment and something does happen, but I'm not completely sure. Anyway, let's not get bogged down in ESL. That's done. That's dead for now, and hopefully forever, but who knows. But this weekend, there's some big games, and I think, even though this isn't maybe the most important game of the weekend, it's very rare that when United play Liverpool, it's not the biggest game of the weekend still. And I think it's fair to say that's the case this weekend, isn't it?
I'd say so, yeah. There's still plenty riding on it in terms of, obviously, United are pretty much in the Champions League. They're nominally in a Premier League title race. That obviously, if City beat Palace on Saturday, then Liverpool could seal the title for City if they beat United here. But there's a lot riding on it for Liverpool. I think they're 4 points behind Chelsea in the Champions League race. Obviously, they're behind West Ham as well. They could still do it. I think everyone's crossing their fingers for David Moyes' Barmy Army. So, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you are we allowed to say this? You follow Liverpool, right? Can we say that? Is that allowed?
Can you not tell from the accent?
Yeah, I don't want to make it too obvious, but you're a Liverpool supporter. Is there any way to salvage this season? I mean, obviously you can't win anything. That's gone fine. But is there still a way you can finish with a flourish, some good momentum going into pre-season, a couple of signings down, you're back on it, you're back on track? Or do you think this is the start of something maybe more sinister at the club, more like we saw with Jurgen Klopp at the end of his Dortmund reign?
It's difficult to say, really. I don't think it'll ever get as bad as it did at Dortmund. So there was a point there where relegation was like a genuine possibility for them. I don't think it'll ever be that case. It would be quite funny if Liverpool were in a relegation battle, but I don't think it will happen. But there is, there's still, as we say, there's still plenty to go for in terms of the Champions League qualification. That's obviously huge in terms of they've announced like quite a lot of losses earlier this week in terms of the tax year. So it's all to do with money for the Champions League. That obviously affects signings. It affects everything else. They've got players to come back from injury, so it's not like they've got a threadbare.
Have they?
Got Van Dijk to come
we haven't been told about that this season.
Yeah, they've got a centre half. I think he's by the name of Virgil van Dijk. He was actually murdered in the Merseyside derby in October. Jordan Pickford,
Yeah.
callous.
Yeah. Well, I mean, look, we all know they've struggled with injuries this season. It's one of those things. That's not the only reason this has happened, though. I don't think, and I think that it would take a quite a blinker Liverpool fan to believe otherwise. Of which you're not one. I don't think. Maybe you'll surprise me. But whatever happens, wherever we'll see out, wherever these two teams are in the league, even if one day they're in separate leagues and just playing in a cup game, this is still for me probably the glamour game in the Premier League, the biggest game in probably British football, isn't it?
That's coming from you, Mark, and you usually love your Leeds games, don't you?
Yeah, all right. Come on, let's stop this campaign of me being a Leeds fan.
Sorry, Winty told me to say that. It does feel like it's pretty much kind of when you think about Premier League teams, the most supported Premier League teams at the minute, it's obviously Man United, it's obviously Liverpool. Liverpool are going through a difficult season. United are on the up, really, under Solskjaer. There's still questions about whether he's the long-term kind of man to lead them to the title again. Who knows? I'm sure we'll find out soon enough. But yeah, it's definitely, when you think about kind of their past, the games like that, this is kind of what you think about when you think about the Premier League. Yeah. The sad thing is that it tends to be 0-0, doesn't it? Between United and Liverpool.
Yeah, it does. And sort of the end of a week that we've talked about European Super League or a fortnight of talking about European Super League, this is exactly what they're talking about when they talk about big money games, right? This is maybe apart from Madrid, Barcelona, this will be the one with the most eyeballs on it worldwide. Let's talk about United, though, briefly. Now, obviously, so they've got Roma tonight, first leg of the Europa League semi-final. They've got them again this time next week. So sandwiching the Liverpool game, or no, how does it work? The Liverpool game is sandwiched by Roma. That's the way right around, isn't
it? Liverpool game is the
filling. Is Solskjaer? Liverpool game is the filling. Roma is the delicious bread. Is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer allowed to? Is he allowed to not put a full strength team out against Liverpool? Given that they're sorted, they're going to get top four. That's not a problem now. Is he allowed to rest players in that game, or is this one of those things that just will not be tolerated, no matter where you are in the league, to rest players against your biggest rivals?
I think the way Solskjaer talks about, obviously, it's this is Manchester United, always talking about the gaffer, Ferguson. I think the way he romanticizes the past of United and the way he'll look at this rivalry, there's no chance, unless he wanted to make a point of starting Dan James and starting Axel Tuanzebe, just to say to Liverpool, right, this doesn't matter to us. We've got a European
13 points clear.
You need this. We don't really. Yeah, exactly. So I can't see him resting players because obviously even previously this season he's played Bruno Fernandes when he's not had to. There was that game where they had the 4-0 lead. I think it was the last round of the Europa League.
Sociedad.
Where he just didn't have to. Yeah, he didn't have to play him at all, but he gave him the first half at least. And it's kind of a case of we're at this stage of the season now. There's only so many games left to play. I think some managers are fearful of if they rest a player, they might fall out of that rhythm. I think a lot of it's to do with match rhythm instead of fitness often. I know Klopp talks about that a lot, kind of keeping players, keeping them in the team, making sure they're not kind of dropping off in terms of form or anything like that. So, yeah, I don't see him. He might make a couple of changes just because obviously 3 games in 7 days, that would be too much to ask. Harry Maguire will play every single minute. But
every single minute, of course he will. Yeah,
I'm not sure.
How can he not? Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot to be said there about what you said about Klopp. I think that momentum is so hard to get in football. And even if there's that gap of finishing the season and having 6 weeks or 8 weeks off for summer, I mean, they don't get that because of the Euros, but hypothetically, the momentum still carries over, doesn't it? I think you still have that thing with we ended the season well, we can start the next season well. And I think that's really important. I think that's a really important thing for these players going in. And I don't think Solskjaer will rest too many players, and certainly I think Klopp is going to be well up for this one. I fancy Liverpool here. We've had someone get in touch with us about this. Philip Amadi Amina has said, "Good evening, guys. What sort of season would you say Thiago's had?" Interesting. Matt, you've watched a lot of him. You've watched all of him, I imagine. Take it away, Thiago.
He's not had a very good season. Is the short answer to that question? Obviously, we've got all the issues. Liverpool themselves haven't had a good season, so it's difficult for a player to come into that situation with the team out of form. With the team, they have had injuries. I think we've spoken about them before. I don't know if you've heard of them.
They've been mentioned. Yeah,
just now and then. So for a new player to come into that team, new teammates, to kind of embed himself into that with a kind of a new way of playing. Obviously, Liverpool have the high line like Bayern Munich, but a lot of the way they play, you won't be able to replicate that there. And he's got the players. Yeah. I think a lot of it is the players behind him. He's had Nat Phillips behind him quite a lot. He's had Kabak behind him quite a lot. If he had Van Dijk there, Gomez there, it might be different. But in terms of Thiago himself, it might be that he settles this season, but it might be that he's a bit of a Veron at Man United, where he's a perfect player, but it's the wrong club.
This is it. He's a wonderful, wonderful player. He's one of the best technicians that you're ever going to see operating in centre midfield. He's not a kid. He's experienced. He's played at the top level for a long time. But having said all of that, I find it very difficult to judge a footballer who's moved to a foreign country during a global pandemic where things aren't as they are normally. You can't socialise with your teammates. You can't, be with your family as normal and visit them whenever you want to. I'm not going to get on anyone's back in that sort of situation. I think we haven't seen the best of him. I hope that's yet to come. And I think we will see it. I think he's too good a player to not succeed. I think he's under too good a manager to not accommodate him to make sure he succeeds. So Philip, Amadi, Amina, I think we're both being quite sensitive to that, aren't we, Matt? Would you say? Are we being overly sensitive? Should we just be saying, no, he's one of the best midfielders in the world. He should be doing this, that, and this?
I think we're being quite boring there, haven't we? I think we need to apologise to Philip there. I think we need to throw some big statements out there. Thiago has been awful.
Go on, then.
I think Liverpool should sell him as soon as they can. There you go,
sack him.
That's all you want.
Sack him. Thiago out. There we go. Hashtag Thiago out.
Free agent.
Right, thanks for getting in touch with the show. Yeah, just get rid. I don't want to hear about it. Right, let's move on because we've had some interesting Champions League games this week. Man City second half against PSG it was proper. That was a proper Pep display. That's what we wanted to see. This weekend, they travel to Crystal Palace. Presumably, they're not going to take the foot off the gas. Presumably, they're going to just sort of continue and again try and keep that momentum going. Or do you think they've got just both eyes on the second leg next week?
I think it's a different case with obviously the United-Liverpool game. Solskjaer kind of has to pick a strong side there. With City, obviously they could theoretically win the league there. Like I say, if United lose and they beat Palace this weekend, but the problem with City is that they've got such a strong squad that they've been rotating all season anyway. That's why they've been attacking on all fronts in terms of the competition, so that it doesn't really affect them. Their squad is ridiculously strong, so a number of players could drop out and they'd still be heavy favourites against Crystal Palace, whoever plays. Particularly
those forward areas. It's just remarkable. I mean, against PSG, Sterling doesn't make the team. They brought in Ferran Torres. Okay, he maybe not of that quality to start against PSG, but what a great player to have coming off as third or fourth choice. It seems a bit unfair, actually, Steady. But that's what it is. Well, what did you make of them against PSG? Because I don't want to say it, game of two halves, etc. But there was something pretty special happening in that second half. It felt like.
Yeah, very much so. I mean, the first half, as good as PSG were, I think City kind of maybe don't deserve credit for the way they held them at bay, but it just felt like a typical Champions League away performance, really. They kind of
they dealt with
they were defending for large parts away from home. Yeah, they were defending for large parts away from home against a very good team. And Neymar's quite a good footballer. Kylian Mbappe is quite a good footballer. Angel Di Maria, quite a good footballer. So I don't know what people really expected.
Marquinhos.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so I don't really know what people expected. They had the Foden chance in the first half, and PSG were the better side. But then in the second half, they were absolutely sensational, I thought, and the PSG were rattled, and obviously that's come from Pochettino and being a bit Spursy, which which again is
No,
very funny,
not
especially in the
having
Champions
that.
League semi-final.
Not having that. Listen, that is beneath even you, Steady. I think it's unfair.
Not sure,
to.
mate.
Are we going to pretend that PSG didn't have this moniker already before Poch got there? They've been called this for years, since that Barcelona game and onwards. This is what they get called. They're called the worst bottlers in the world. Blah 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 blah. Look, Poch is I think an excellent manager. Okay, he hasn't won anything major yet, but I think he's gone to something at PSG. I think they can put a good side together there. Because actually, again, I mean, you mentioned there the attacking players they've got, and they've got some wonderful attackers at PSG. But defensively, I think they're getting much more solid. I mean, I know Man City really dominated that second half, but the goals they scored, it's not like they were creating chances, at will. They weren't carving PSG open. Both goals, one is a De Bruyne cross, essentially, that was just sort of misread. Keeper can't do much. It's gone past the last guy. So it's one. You see those goals like 5 times a season, don't you? And the second one was, the wall just disintegrated. So I definitely don't think we can start calling them Pochettino's bottlers just yet. But I also would be a little bit wary if I was Man City that they weren't creating that much despite the dominance. And I can't see PSG. I mean, I don't know if you can see this. I can't see PSG not scoring at the Etihad.
No, it's one of those things, isn't it? In football, we do put too much emphasis on goals, and obviously they do kind of decide the game, so that is understandable. But they just skew our perception. They skew our perception of absolutely everything in terms of if Navas reacts quicker to that De Bruyne cross, then it doesn't go in, and then the second goal probably doesn't go in, and then Idrissa Gueye probably doesn't get sent off, and PSG hold out for a 1-0 win. You don't know. So it's one of those things with that. And
well,
then
this is the Louis van Gaal thing. This is the Louis van Gaal thing of where he said people generally, pundits seem to analyse the result and not the game. And I think that's what he really sort of meant by it, is that it's easy to say that, it was a dominant display, and it was for large portions of the second half. But like you say, I mean, it wasn't. That's not the whole tale of that game. And I think Man City will go through. But I think it's certainly not a dead tie, this one. If City got that third, then yeah, maybe. But this is going to be a really interesting second leg, even more so than the Chelsea Real Madrid one, which is more finely poised.
Yeah, I'd say so. Yeah, and obviously with Pochettino, it's not as if he's not got any experience of coming from behind in a Champions League semi-final. It's something he's done before. It's something that he's come from behind, away from home before. It's kind of in his repertoire, and he's had some very good results against Pep Guardiola and against Manchester City before. So we'll know how to deal with it, and it'll just be one of those things where Mbappe might get a chance and he might put it away. Foden had a couple of chances yesterday and he didn't. So that's just the things that settle games sometimes, and then we'll see.
That's the nature of the beast, Steady. We can't talk about Palace, Man City without talking about Palace, so let's do that. I mean, I don't know what to think about Palace, really. They're a team I really like. They're a club I really like. I do like Roy. I just wonder if it's maybe time for a change this summer. And if there is a change this summer with management, it's a risk. It's a big risk because Roy has got them stable at least. What do you make of their chances, not just against City, but about their chances of improving in their league position over the next year or two with another manager?
It'll be interesting. Yeah, I like Palace and I like Hodgson. And obviously, the last time they kind of they came to, yes, go on, the boys. The last time they came to change managers, it was obviously De Boer came in, and that was an absolute failure.
Yeah.
He got sacked after 4 games, and that's why they had to bring Hodgson in. That's why they had to stabilise the club. And since then, he's basically become their kind of guarantee against relegation. The issue with that is when it comes to getting rid of him. Obviously, he's the oldest manager in Premier League history. There comes a point where even Roy Hodgson has to kind of look at it and think, I don't really need this every single week. I can do whatever I want. I could be on the beach somewhere. I could be doing whatever. Yeah. So it'll be a case where eventually, obviously, he's out of contract this summer, as are pretty much all of their first team squad. So it's going to be a hell of a summer for Palace in terms of rebuilding. But I think maybe if they aimed high, they could get someone like Sean Dyche in. But it depends on how much they want to spend.
Yeah, I mean, Dyche is the one that I've heard mentioned alongside the Palace job the most. I think it would make sense. I love Dyche. I do love Dyche. I think he's done a fabulous job with Burnley, of which we'll speak about later on in the show. I just think that it's not Palace fans, because Palace fans seem to be pretty realistic. You know, that they appreciate where they are in the league and how hard it is to be in that position in maybe the most competitive league in the world with limited resources, relatively. But the guys upstairs at Palace may think, come on, we need to push on now. Sometimes you can't do it. Sometimes there is that glass ceiling that you can't push through. And I even Dyche, as much as I like him, I'm not sure he, not that he's not capable, but I think the chips are stacked against someone coming in and improving that. Yeah, I know. But the chips are stacked against him in terms of coming in and improving it even further, right? Isn't it?
Yeah, I think for Dyche, obviously, he's got that security at Burnley. He's got that stability. Whereas, like we say before, there's so many players that are coming out of contract at Palace that he would be coming into that job, and he would basically have to sign in half of his Burnley squad who are probably in a similar situation with their contracts. And I think some managers probably just would look at that and think, I'm not going to touch that with a barge pole. I've seen Chris Wilder mention maybe he'd go for it, but I'm not sure really.
Yeah, the list of potential managers, I don't think it is that long. We'll talk about managers later on because we've got Stu Lord coming on the show, comedian, Spurs fan. Yes, absolutely right. And why not? Why aren't you saluting? Where's your flag in the background? Where's your picture of the Queen?
On the boys.
God's sake.
That's poor from me, actually, isn't it?
It is really poor. Right, from Man City, one of the heroes of the Champions League in the week, we go to Chelsea, who I think put in a really good performance, particularly first half, against Real Madrid. They're at home to Fulham this weekend. Let's talk about Chelsea's game at Real Madrid very quickly, because I thought that was a pretty mature European performance. But Real Madrid do what Real Madrid do, which is hang in there and show what it's like being a European heavyweight.
Yeah, that's why they want the European Super League, isn't it? That's why they were in charge. It was a good game, wasn't it?
Right.
It was similar to the City PSG one in terms of one team kind of started the better side. The other team slowly came into it. They both had their chances. They only took a couple of them. Whereas, obviously, like you said before, this one's a bit more finely poised. There's only an away goal in it at the minute, so it kind of depends. Obviously, Timo Werner's going to get 5 chances at Stamford Bridge. It depends if he can take any of them.
Yeah, it's. I've been really I was batting for him for the first few months of the season, and then I thought, actually, I've sort of really backed. I backed the wrong horse a little bit. I still think he'll come good, and again, I can't defend Thiago and say that, all this about moving in the pandemic and then hammer Werner, right? So. Pandemic. Once that's over, Werner starts scoring goals. You'll see. Get the pubs open. Take your masks off.
That's it.
I'm joking. Don't do any of that.
Coronavirus.
Marcus Walsh. Marcus Walsh has been in touch with the show. Marcus says, isn't it a bit fickle for the game at large to big up Chelsea and Man City after doing well this week in the Champions League after what they gone and done last week in the breakaway league? So I guess we're being asked, are we being hypocrites for sort of showering praise on these teams? And you know what? Marcus has got a point, hasn't he?
He does in a way, but also football does kind of have to move on. And it does, like the Champions League is still a competition that we have to review, we have to look at, we have to react to. It's not great in terms of what Chelsea and City tried to do, what they gone and done. But obviously that wasn't anything to do with the players or the managers. That was a few select executives thinking we could get a bit more money here. So, I mean, in terms of giving too much praise to Pep Guardiola or to Thomas Tuchel, I think at the end of the day, they did their jobs very well in midweek, and I think it's only right to kind of give them credit for that, really.
Yeah, it's separating the team from the ownership, isn't it? This was never really about the teams or the players or the fans or any of that. It's important to separate those two things. So, Marcus, I completely get your point, and I sort of do agree to a certain extent. I think we should have had maybe a few weeks of a buffer before we start praising the teams again. But we've got a show to do, mate. There's not much I can do about that. Yes. Let's talk about Fulham Marcus. In this game, though, Steady. Let's talk about Fulham here, away at Chelsea. Again, this feels like this is mainly an exercise now for Fulham in getting some good momentum, getting some good positivity into the camp ahead of what could be quite a long summer for them.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be too late, really, doesn't it? It's bizarre with Fulham because it feels like there's been so many times throughout the season that people have just convinced themselves that they're going to stay up because
I thought they were going to stay
a few
up.
good
I thought
performances
they were
and they've got a couple of. Yeah, you're not alone at all because they've got that good result against Liverpool. They've got a good result against Leicester, but it just seems to have crept up on everyone that actually now we're in late April, beginning of May, and they're about 7 points adrift, and they clearly aren't picking up the results that they need to in enough time, really. So they are gone. But then, it's about momentum. It's about trying to see if they can engender any sort of positivity heading back into the Championship. It'll be interesting to see if they stick with Parker, because obviously he was there with them the last time they went down, and then he brought them back up. So, I mean, it would make sense to stick with him. But then, well, he's the best dressed manager in the Premier League, so it would be a shame to see him go. I'm not sure who's second, to be honest.
Well, it's not Pep. That's all I can tell you. It's definitely not Pep.
No.
I'm not sure. Is that enough qualification, though? Is that the criteria they're looking at now? We've seen these greedy owners, Matt Stead. They want money. Is the other thing they want a well-dressed manager? I'm not sure. It's more than that, surely.
There's the European Clothing League coming up, though, so you never know, do you?
The ECL. What do you reckon for that game, then? Chelsea-Fulham, do you think that's being quite straightforward home victory there?
I'd suggest so. Again, obviously, Chelsea will be resting a hell of a lot of players. They do still have Champions League qualification to guarantee. They've got two routes into it, but obviously beating Real Madrid and then beating Man City or PSG in the final, that's pretty difficult to ask in comparison to finishing fourth. So, again, he'll make a few changes, but again, they've got such a strong squad that they can kind of afford to against a team like Fulham. And maybe Tammy Abraham gets a chance. That would be fun to see.
You can add more zeros to his £40 million price tag. Okay, let's move on. I want to talk about Southampton versus Leicester now. Southampton-Leicester is... well, we know the recent history of this fixture. We know about the 9-0. We know about the recent FA Cup semi-final victory for Leicester. Is there any element of revenge here? Both teams, Southampton look like they're safe. Leicester, we think okay, do we? Let's start with this first of all. How angry are Southampton players, do you think, about Leicester in general? Do you think there's a real bit of needle there now?
It's difficult to say, but it doesn't feel like Southampton care about anything at the minute, does it? It seems like they beat Liverpool in January and they just thought, right, that's our season done. We've been top of the league. We're not going to get relegated.
The manager's
not
in
going to
tears.
get Europe, so let's just sack it off. Yeah, exactly. That just felt like the end of their season, which is really bizarre. I don't think they have any emotions whatsoever, the Southampton players.
A robot team in red and white. Well, I mean, I just think that the issue they've got is the news today was broken that Ings is probably out for the rest of the season as well. So that's difficult. Shane McAdams up front, Scotland's finest. He is an excellent player, and he can, he can lead the line well. He can occupy defences on his own. I think he is an excellent striker, actually. But it's a lot to ask for him to do it on his own for the rest of the season when it's a team that looked like, if flights were happening, they'd be on the beach. So I'm not really sure what's gonna happen here. My main concern would be, if I was a Leicester fan, that this could be another collapse for Leicester. And this could be the start of another collapse. Can you see another Leicester collapse happening?
I personally can't. I think if they didn't get that result last weekend, there would be kind of a wave of people thinking that, and then Rodgers tends to get swept up in that, and then the players would kind of think, oh, well, last season it happened, so probably it's going to happen this season. I think that result last weekend was absolutely crucial. And with Iheanacho in that kind of form as well, Vardy's come back into the goals and stuff. I think they'll make it. I think, especially with Chelsea being a bit occupied with the Champions League, West Ham are a bit too far behind. Liverpool, obviously, they're rubbish now, as we know. I think they've got enough of a gap to get third at least.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I'm a Derby fan, but I do quite like Leicester. I think what they've done is great, and it'd be nice to have a non-Big Six in the top four, wouldn't it? That'd be Perez would love that. Iheanacho, you mentioned him a second ago. He's been unbelievable this last sort of 12, 15 games. Is this a flash in the pan? Is this just a streaky striker having the best few months of his career, and that might be it? Or do you think there's been a real turning point in Iheanacho and he's worked out how to play at this level? And this is the sort of form, maybe not a goal a game, but the sort of form we can expect to see going forward from him.
It feels a bit like Daniel Sturridge, doesn't it? When Rodgers
that's exactly who I was thinking
of. Kind of, yeah, there's a bit of that kind of flavour to it. Obviously, Vardy's in the Suarez role there, and I won't make any more comment on that. I think everyone can read between the lines there. But yeah, with Iheanacho, he has hit that form, and there's a lot to be said for that kind of striker who does need a goal to get going. And obviously, we've seen with Werner, he gets a goal and then he goes another 13 or 14 without scoring. Whereas Iheanacho, he seems settled, he seems happy at Leicester, he's obviously just signed a new contract. There's been a lot of pressure on him because obviously Leicester signed him for 25 million. It's easy to forget how much he cost them and how long ago he signed, but sometimes it just clicks. Vardy's obviously, his importance has diminished there, so he's stepped up to the plate.
Has it diminished, or has he just stopped scoring goals? I mean, I think he's still contributing a lot, isn't he?
He's rubbish now. He's gone.
That's it. Game over. Some real exclusives on the show tonight. Right, it's impossible to talk about Leicester without talking about Brendan Rodgers. He's a manager who he's been successful wherever he's been. You know, he turned Liverpool into a serious side again for the first time in a while. He went to Scotland, did what he did at Celtic, and he's come to Leicester, and with the help of some fantastic recruitment, he's turned them into the second or third really, really great Leicester City side. I think this is probably my favourite one to watch. Maybe just behind the Mahrez Vardy of the league-winning one. But it's a great team to watch. He's an excellent manager, and it makes me think maybe this is the summer where he'll move to one of the big six clubs. And Tottenham Hotspur, it turns out, Matt, I don't know if you know this, but turns out they need a new manager because their old one has gone crazy and then left. Now, I want to bring on a third person to this chat who can talk about it in more detail. I'd like to welcome to the show comedian, Tottenham Hotspur fan. It's Stuart Laws. Hello, Stuart Laws.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you very well. How are you getting on?
I'm doing fine. Just catching up on all the latest managerials coming-ins and goings.
Yeah. So, I mean, I mentioned Brendan Rodgers there. As a fan, first of all, before we ask you as an important and serious analyst, would you take Rodgers? Would you have Rodgers as your manager?
Yeah, of course so. Of course. Look what he's done with Leicester. It's absolutely a good point.
No question. No question. Straight in. Get him in.
Yeah, of course. I mean, Ten Hag or Rangnick seem to be the preferred ones for Spurs fans. That seems to be the vibe at the moment. And to be honest, either of those, both of them, Rangnick especially, sort of feels like more of a continuation of Poch ball. And that, for me, I mean, I just want Poch back. Is there any chance we can get Poch back?
Oh, I feel so sorry for you watching him play in the Champions League semi-finals. It's just heartbreaking for little Stu Laws.
That's the worry with Rodgers. Ten Hag, of course, that he's bottled a very, very simple win in a Champions League semi-final before.
He's the Spurs DNA, but Rodgers would be steady. Rodgers would be as close as you can get to a guarantee of good attacking football, wouldn't it?
Yeah, and I feel like the squad. Sorry, yeah.
No, you go. Please.
I feel like the squad is a good squad, and it's sort of been gone under this whole like Jose, this is a disaster squad that needs to be fixed, and somehow that whole narrative of like, oh, Spurs, it's a classic Spurs thing to sort of throw things away in the last minute. You go, that's not what was happening under Poch in any way. We were a very resilient team, and obviously the start to that season was bad because there wasn't investment in the team. There was no churn. It's very difficult to sort of keep that up without any new players coming in. And what what Mourinho did was turn us into a very Spursy team. So I think let's get someone like Rodgers in, someone like Ten Hag, and they can do a lot with the squad that's there. I don't think there's much wrong with the squad.
Yeah, steady. When Jose went into that club in the first place, he was saying, wasn't he, that this is a really good squad, and obviously he changed his mind pretty sharpish as soon as results started going badly. But from a Football 365 writer's point of view, where do you stand on who the next Spurs manager could and should be. And if you, Steady, were the Dan Levy, let's thank our lucky stars that you're not. But who would you appoint?
Yes, thank you. If I was Daniel Levy, I don't know what I'd do, to be honest. In terms of the Spurs manager's job, Rodgers would obviously be the ideal candidate, wouldn't he? But I think he's built such a good side at Leicester. He's clearly very happy there. He's got the perfect kind of framework to work within. I don't think he's going to leave that unless Man City come along or someone akin to that, really. I think Leicester to Spurs at the minute would be a step down, which is bizarre to think.
Do you think that? Do you really think that?
I'm not sure. Ten Hag, maybe.
Yeah, but I'm not sure I completely buy this idea that Leicester are a bigger club or a bigger job than Spurs. I really don't think they are. I mean, okay, they're 9 points ahead of them. That's three wins in what has been a terrible season for Spurs and a very good one for Leicester. It's a huge club with a great stadium. If they sell Kane, they got a lot of money to spend as well. And we know, don't we, Stu Laws, that Brendan Rodgers does have a bit of an ego on him. This might suit him perfectly.
Yeah, and I guess there is an element with Spurs that Levy seems to have the ego to him as well, which it would be maybe some big old look at. I mean, a guy like that, of course, he's going to have a bit of an ego to him. Well, look, that man can kill you with one stare. Of course, you're going to have an ego on him.
He's staring at me now. It's horrible. Get it off. I don't want to see this picture anymore.
We cut back to Mark. He'll be dead.
Very, very uncomfortable, that, isn't
it? Yeah, isn't it? So, okay, Stu. So, Rodgers is your first choice. Ten Hag your second?
No, Rodgers wouldn't be my first choice.
He wouldn't be first.
No, I think Rangnick would be my first choice.
Rangnick.
Yeah.
Okay. What do you like about him? What do you think he'll bring to the table?
Well, he's so well respected, isn't he, in the coaching world?
Yeah, so is Jose. You just had that with Jose.
Jose was, but Jose very much was. I know Rangnick hasn't managed for a little while, but he was pioneered a lot of the ideas that sort of saw the last evolution of the game, right? And I feel like it was someone that could come in. I like the vibe of him. I've been watching sort of.
You're such a purist. It's a good thing, but you're such a purist. This is no holds barred, balls to the wall stuff now. The Premier League, Stu. None of this purist nonsense. You need someone to come in, grab that squad by the horns, I suppose, and just get them playing a nice, expansive way and playing to their strengths. Don't want Rangnick. Get Rodgers in. Rodgers knows the league inside out.
Oh, right. Okay, fine. Yeah, let's get Rodgers in. Good
point. Steady, make the call. Stu, stay on with us.
Mason, surely.
Yeah, Ryan Mason. That's not been mentioned.
Yeah, I mean, I say we get Ryan Mason and Scott Parker to play sort of a holding manager role, sort of alongside each other with Ledley behind. I feel like that's perfect. A little like a tripod, if you will, of managers just working beautifully. Nice.
A triptych.
Oh, a lovely triptych and Ledley, early days when we were trying to work out how to fit, our 17 centre-backs into the England team, Ledley was being played in midfield as well. So I feel like you got
He was.
You can play the never mentioned triple pivot.
the rarely mentioned until this point triple pivot. Stu, stay with us. We're going to talk about a couple more games coming up this weekend. I'm going to start with Burnley versus West Ham. This is the one we're waiting for, Stu. Burnley, West Ham.
The claret and blue derby.
Absolutely right. And Aston Villa just hanging out on the sidelines, I suppose. Burnley, West Ham. Oh, West Ham going to get top 4 this season, Stu?
No.
They're not.
Next question.
Why not?
Well, because Chelsea, Liverpool are also in the running, and
yes.
Look, West Ham are a great team. It's a lot of fun. Look, a lot of fun to watch them play. I genuinely had them to go down at the start of the season. I owe a friend of mine £10. That was based on inside knowledge I'd received from someone who is friends with the squad about the frictions within the squad and all of that. And it's not turned out at all. They're really good. I feel like we have lost Mark here at this point, so I guess shall I lead this now?
Mark's gone. Oh no.
Yeah. Now, what would you say?
Yeah, one of us can host this. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Would you say what's more likely, a Chris Wood hat trick or an Antonio hat trick?
I think both. To be honest, I think we've probably got a 3-3 draw on our hands. I think obviously maybe Jesse Lingard could come on. I don't even know if he's still injured. Actually, he's got the European Championships to go for now. There's a 26-man squad. I think he could be in for a chance with a hat trick. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, Burnley have somehow. I mean, they're also a team that everyone puts down to go down every single year, right? And they've somehow put the afterburners on once again, and they've beaten Wolves 4-0. Wolves don't get thrashed. They'll lose 1-0 for an entirety of, for like a 3-month peririd, but they don't get thrashed.
Burnley are famously anti on the beach, aren't they, Burnley?
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed, but I disappeared there for a second, and I've been led to believe that Stu took over very ably. So thank you, Stu Laws, for doing that. I don't know what you said about me while I was gone. I presume it was all lovely stuff.
Did not notice whatsoever, Mark.
No.
Okay, good. Did you mention Chris Wood while I was gone?
Yeah, we were talking exactly of Chris Wood. Who's more likely to get the hat trick, Chris Wood or Antonio?
Yeah, so this is the thing I've got about West Ham this season. I just wonder if they've got regrets over what happened in January. They let Haller go. Antonio's a fantastic striker. We know that. We know how good he's been for West Ham as well.
He's a Haller
this season and
striker.
last season. Yes.
Hello?
But, it is working.
My mic's gone off.
No, I can definitely hear you. I wonder if they regret not doing something about getting in a reserve striker and just giving him that real push for the end of the season, because Antonio, we know he gets injured. We know that happens. And yes, Lingard's fantastic and can play as a false nine, but you'd rather have him floating around doing what he wants. So I look at West Ham's striker problem, then I look at Chris Wood, and Chris Wood is unbelievable. I think he's a fantastic Premier League striker. And I think he's the exact sort of person that would have really, really helped out West Ham. What do you think, Stu?
Yeah, I mean, I've weirdly watched a lot of Burnley this season. I know that all games are televised, and I sort of have put myself through a lot of that. But Chris Wood, he puts himself about. I don't know how old Chris Wood is. If you told me he was 38, I'd believe you. But if you told me he was 24, I'd also believe you. The way he runs around that pitch, he's that Harry Redknapp, Pavlyuchenko, just effing run about a bit.
Yeah.
Chris Wood's doing that, but he's actually got some end product to it. He's got some intelligence. He's got smarts. His hold-up play is great. I'm a big fan.
He's got everything, man. And you know what? With Chris Wood, whenever we talk about Chris Wood, we always say, he's when he's playing with Ashley Barnes, he's good with Ashley Barnes, good partnership. When he's with Jay Rodriguez, that's a good partnership with Jay Rodriguez. When it's with Matej Vidra, good partnership. Every single person he plays with, it's a good partnership. And that shows how good his football IQ is. He's able to bring players in, work his game to make sure it benefits someone else, whilst also not taking away the fact that he's an effective, shoulder of the last man striker who can hold the ball up. He can do everything. I think he's a really top player. And I'm going to say this, Steady. This is your headline.
Whoa. Here we go.
If Chris Wood was at Man City, 25 league goals a season.
Whoa.
You reckon? What do you reckon, Stu? Is that mad?
No, I love it. Well, what you were saying is Chris Wood is. That. Yeah.
Yeah,
Chris Wood is like you at a party, just bringing people in. You're making things work.
Bring them in.
Yeah.
Get them comfortable. Make sure they can perform, and I can perform, and we can all have a great time. That's the.
Yeah.
I honestly think Chris Wood's so underrated. And I think had he gone to a team like West Ham, I think it could be quite expensive. But had he gone there, I think West Ham would be absolutely nailed on for top four
for the Championship.
Do you mean the Championship is in the league below the Premier League, or do you mean the Premier League title?
I mean all of it.
Yeah, fine. It's a clean sweep. The greatest. We've got a message here from a man called the greatest player in the world.
Oh wow!
He says a broomstick could score more. A broomstick could score for Man City and that
from
team.
Chris Wood.
Thank you, greatest player in the world. Yeah. I mean, a broomstick couldn't. I mean, I don't know. Probably.
I don't know if that'd be allowed. I do not know if that'd be allowed.
I know it wouldn't. Right, that's all we got time for on the show this time. There were a few technical issues there. The main one being when the host of the show disappeared for about 4 minutes.
And you weren't
Steady's
missed.
on a bit of a mad time delay. Stu Laws is the only one that you could actually rely on during all this, which is
Very
a mad
much
thing
the
to
Chris
say,
Wood
given
of the
his
team.
reputation. That's it. He's the Chris Wood. I'm the Matej Vidra. And Steady, who are you? Do you want to be Jay Rodriguez, or do you want to be, I think, more of an Ashley Barnes type?
Arrives in the box a bit too late.
I'll be Tammy Abraham still.
Yeah. You can be Tammy Abraham. 60 million quid's worth of Tammy Abraham. Right, Stu Laws, thank you for joining us on the Football 365 show. Matt Stead, thank you for being here for the whole time. It's really good of you to jump in while Sarah Winterburn's off doing more important things. This has been the Football 365 show. It's actually called Big Weekend. This is Big Weekend on the Football 365 show.
And can I plug
Brought to you by Paddy Power. What do you want to plug? What do you want to plug, Stu?
There's an amazing football website called Football 365. I recommend you get on there, you check it out. It's really good.
All right, good stuff. Hope you all enjoy the Europa Super League semi-finals tonight. That should be Europa Super League. I've lost my effing mind. Enjoy the football. I don't care. See you all next week. Same time, same place. From me, Matt Stead, Stu Laws. Good night.